are going to talk about California bills and how you can get involved. I know I did that this morning, but I think it's that we hear Tara on this as well. Ah! Okay. Okay. All right. So I did put this as a public post or a public Zoom so we can do questions.
Oh, cool.
A couple people in here. All right. So, hi. Yeah, people are like, oh my God, you haven't been on my thing in weeks. I know, I've been censored. This is what censorship looks like. So we're doing this a little bit different. Tara and I have like a lot of technical issues when it comes to all things social media. So we're trying to get some things figured out on like Rumble, other sites. But for right now, I'm toggling between a Zoom that's being streamed live on YouTube and my TikTok. So hello, my name is Denise. I am co-founder of Freedom Angels, and I am located in Stockton, California.
And hi, I am Tara Thornton, co-founder of Freedom Angels in the Northern Sierra Nevada mountains of California.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Please, if you have any questions, drop your questions at the end. We will go over just a couple of things that we think are important for you to know in the state of California. So I know it's just going to be a whole video of bad news on what is going on. And, you know, this is just like the most frustrating thing in the whole world to have to deal with. So we're in California. We fought against SB 276. Tara fought against SB 277 as well. And we kind of saw the writing on the wall. Like, they labeled us all of these crazy names, and the media really destroyed us for speaking out against the corrupt program. You know, it's just, we try to our best to fight against this and really say no mandates. You know, medicine is not a one size fits all. And here it is. I mean, here is what we have been dreading since 2015. And Tara and I, we're going to go through the bills. So go ahead and tell me your thoughts on that, and then we'll go through the bills one by one, kind of talk about what it is.
Well, other than that, as everyone knows, that when you're in a state that has a supermajority of any party, then party agendas that are a dominant platform of a certain party get pushed through. And even though this is really a non-partisan in the sense that not only does it affect everyone, and not everyone is stepping up to the table and fighting for human and civil rights and for parental rights and such the way they should be. In general, it falls along the Democrat-Republican line. Not exactly, but in general. So, you know, so as you can tell then, California is a supermajority of Dems. It's always been the place that they've launched their attacks, where they wanted to set legislation to, you know, restrict and control. And this isn't just little stuff. This is massive. This affects everybody, young and old. This affects what truly is the difference between freedom and slavery, around owning your own body, around right to movement, right to work, right to parent your child, you know, rights to education. Like, all the fundamental right issues are affected by the legislation right now that's up at stake in California around all these different pieces. And they all tie into what everyone's been living through for the last 2 years, and what the health freedom community has been doing for a decade or more, dealing with for a decade or more.
Yeah, you know, back when we were in this health freedom fight, and I'm talking about trenches, like at the Capitol, we saw how people really, because it was children, you know, it was always the argument of, well, kids have to be fully jabbed to go to school with my kids, like, you know. And now this battle, this is not just about kids in school. This is about your ability to earn a living and to feed your family. If you want to work, and that is bill, we're going to start, actually, let's start with the kids first. We're going to start with SB 871. This bill in California will allow or will mandate all children in public, private, and daycares to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19. And mind you, fully vaccinated means with boosters, right? It's not just with like 1 or 2, and they're talking about 3 doses along with the entire schedule of what's already, mandated to go to public school. And with this bill, it's again, it affects everybody, no matter what socioeconomic status you're from, what background you're from, because it affects private school as well and daycare. And we know that there's already clinical trials for 6 months and up. And so it's going to be any licensed daycare. If you get something like family resources and referral, they're not going to cover you if you don't comply. And so it affects every single background. And there's no exemptions here. There's no exemptions, no exceptions. It's all the whole schedule all the time. And this is really what we knew was coming. This is 277, 2022.
Yeah, exactly. And 277 was in 2015. And we always tell, in case people didn't know, the bill was comply or move state. We only won a small carve out for homeschooling through a massive battle. So, and what Denise was saying, this applies to everybody. As we know, this is to be current on the schedule is going to mean, all the shots and the annual boosters. Just a reminder, everyone that's concerned about this and wants choice or doesn't want that shot anywhere near their child, probably knows the fact that there is not only in traditional childhood vaccines or vaccines, they don't give you the insert for the actual real insert for the vaccine. But on this one, it's blank. If they give it to you, it's completely blank on both sides. And because it's still an experimental phase, but even once it's past that, it's still, what I think people have learned is the vaccine and this, experimental shot industry is corrupt to its core, whether you're talking about the childhood schedule that's been mandated, across the nation for a long time, or this new mRNA or these new shots, these COVID shots that are coming out. The industry is completely corrupt. It's captured. It has no liability. It doesn't have to take any liability for anything. It does 0 to ridiculous levels of science and safety studies on it. And it puts mandates in place and courses people up against really hard walls. So it's, Denise said that like in California, there's already no exemption for the 10 mandated shots. I hope people are really looking at not just this COVID shot, but all these others. I hope they've really learned to see how corrupt this industry is, how there's no checks and balances, there's no good safety, what would be considered a gold standard safety around any of them. And just keep that in mind as you're making your decisions on where you stand around what line you are willing to, set in the sand for yourself, your child, your family, and for the world that you want for humanity.
Yeah. And, even if someone is okay with this one particular shot, there's still going to be more added with many different types. And there's going to be one that you're not going to agree with. And it's really going to give public health the ability to add on the schedule without the proper legislative checks and balances and the checks and balances from taxpayers here in the state. So it's a really scary bill. I mean, we knew that one was coming, and we can only expect more to get worse. California has comfortable homeschool laws, and we can expect that to change soon as well. So if you are a homeschooling, you should be involved in this, even though it affects public school. You still have to be involved in this to stop what's going to come towards you eventually, towards the homeschoolers. So the next bill that we have is SB 866, and this one is 12 years and up will be able to vaccines without parental consent or knowledge. And, from 12 and up here in California, you don't even have access to your child's medical records already. And so you're never going to know. And the only way you'll know is if your child tells you, or if they, God forbid, have an injury. And then from there, you're left alone. Once your child has an injury, doctors are not going to run to help you. It's incredibly difficult to find a doctor across the nation, someone who will treat an injury and someone who will give proper medical advice instead of being coerced. And when we talk about You know, the politics, you know, the pharmaceutical companies lobby everybody. They lobby both parties. They lobby doctors. They lobby hospitals. And so when you have such a powerful entity like the pharmaceutical companies, they're a well-oiled machine with millions, billions, trillions of dollars to spend. As long as they still start hashing out all those, you know, all their products, and we have to buy them because we're now mandated, they're going to get very rich off the backs of our children.
You know, and this one is, it's so hard to believe that these have been passing. This has been passing, and not just 12. Some states it's 9, some it's 10, some it's 11. Age 9, 10, 11, 12. If you know, everyone should understand how insane that is, because you've either been a parent or you were a child. And you are not, children are not capable of making their own medical decisions. These aren't some kind of an inert experience, an inert intervention. There are risks and side effects. And we know this really well, how coercive both the medical and the educational system is around childhood vaccines and shots. And so you add this in, you add their ability to completely block the parent, and coerce and encourage the child to get these shots. And you wouldn't even believe some of the things separate from prior to 2020, what medical professionals and educational professionals who are supposed to be taking care of our children, you wouldn't believe some of the things that they have said that have been reported directly from the children to their parents of what these adults said to them to try to coerce them into getting these shots. And now, not only, like Denise said, they literally will never you'll never know if it happens. You won't have access to the medical records, anything. How any person with a single brain cell can think that is a good decision is so beyond me. But the truth is they're passing in supermajority states that have this as part of the agenda. The agenda is to break the parent-child relationship. It's to break the doctor-patient relationship. It's to basically, and honestly, to indoctrinate and create institutional minds around our children. And it's unbelievable. They'll bring it up too. You'll probably start hearing things like children's bills of rights, a children's bill of rights. We fought 5 years ago, we fought Senator Pan in California had a bill called SB 18, and it was the Children's Bill of Rights. And this is how they frame all of this. The child has a right to the child care, the health care. The child has a right to make their decisions on this. I'm sorry. They are little children. I think if anyone has a 12-year-old, they know they are not capable of making their medical care decisions.
100%. Next bill is AB 2539. This is the QR passport. And this actually was introduced by a California Republican. And when, you know, we had a relationship with he's called the Republican whip. Right, he's the head Republican, Devin Mathis. He is not the author of this bill. I'm going to go into the response that people received from him. So this bill says that in order to enter a private business, you're going to have to show your QR code. You're 12 and up. This is the passport that we all knew was coming. They said, you know, they're calling it a digital ID, though, right? Just don't call it a passport. It was a digital ID. And when a constituent contacted Devin Mathis, who again is the whip of the Republican Party at the California Capitol, he framed it to where he said, this isn't about mandates. This isn't about supporting mandates. You know, it's about making sure that a family doesn't have cards. Like, he made it about, you want to protect your card. And so let's just put this bill in here. And, you know, there's no taking responsibility for what this is. And Devin Mathis knows what this is. He has been alongside us during 276. You know, we have pictures of him in front of an upside down American flag because he knew what this was. And yet we're still having both parties in California introduce a bill that's going to stop our movement in society if we don't comply with their health orders.
Yeah, nobody gets to play naive anymore. This is the deal now. We have to recognize what modern day slavery is, what it looks like. And anything that, these systems, these digital tracking and surveillance systems, they are designed, they're going to be, told, oh, this is for efficiency, convenience, what have you. No, you don't put vulnerable populations or information into databases because that's how they control, that's how they manipulate, and that's essentially a slave system. You can call it a slave passport, you can call it a safe health pass or digital tracking, but whatever it is, people have to have the discernment now to recognize what is of evil, what is modern day slavery, all those little things. Like no more, playing naive or just, pretending things are shallower than they are. Not even close.
Oh, and that safe health pass, that's not just a California thing. There's like 21 or 27 other states that have adopted this health pass, including Republican states. So I just want everyone to be clear as we're watching this. Don't think that you're going to be safe in a red state, or don't think you can move and it's going to be okay. There's still elections that happen that people get put into certain positions. So your laws can change anytime. So it's suggested if you do move, you start working the political arena so that way you can put in place the protections that you need so you don't have, your state doesn't get California or New York.
Yeah, you got to work really hard if you're in a Republican state, because you can move and advance things that you can't in California. And on that digital, any digital tracking system this is part of a globalist plan that no one's pretending it's not. No one's pretending this isn't going to be connected globally. And the point is we have to look at them and take a position on them the same way we would someone coming in and telling you that they had control over your body, or that you needed to give them your most personal information. It's that much of a sacred line. It's that much of a line in the sand, because you can't trust what that system is designed to control and commoditize. Yeah. And so you have to play with it like it's that, instead of like, well, it's just this. Not even close. And don't and shame on those Republicans for pretending that it's no big deal.
Yeah, no, you don't get that pass anymore. We've seen too much, we know too much, and we know that And so, no, we're not going to treat you as kid gloves anymore. This is the whole enchilada is going to be taken here. So it's time to start doing your job. The next bill is SB 1479. This one would require schools to continue the tracing, tracking, and testing, quarantining in order to receive funds. So that's interesting. Remember those at-home kits that are being sent home to children? They're just handing them out to kids in elementary school, right? High school, whatever. They're handing them out. Epoch Times came out and showed that those tests are now contaminated. How many times are you testing your children? How many times are you testing yourself? And now this is going to be mandated for schools, for your child to go to school. Not only do they need to get the COVID-19 vaccine, but they also have to be tested. So, where's your line here? This is a complete takeover of removing the relationship between parent and child, and the state taking over the decisions for medical care. I mean, this is absurd to think that this would pass, but if we don't get engaged, it will pass.
Oh, these things will fly through without even with massive engagement. Well, you know how it is. And yeah, our whole position, accept no slave terms. You cannot accept the grounds like, again, everyone's familiar with the, if you give an inch, they're going to take a mile. This inch is already the mile. This isn't a little thing. That's what we can't just think, oh, it's just a little thing. It's just an inch. They're not going to take a mile. No, this is the mile. You might look like an inch. It's not. It's the whole deal. Once they get all these things into place, it's the complete control net. It's the complete slave system.
Yep. The next one is a special one. And this is actually, we got to pay attention to this. Well, we got to pay attention to all of it. All these bills are horrendous. But SB 1464 would require law enforcement officials to enforce public health orders. Now, we saw that when, with the LA Sheriff and San Joaquin County Sheriff and Stanislaus County Sheriff stepping in and saying, no, we're not going to do arrest if you're not muzzled. No, we're not going to trespass you if you're not showing your QR code. We're not going to lock you down. We're not going to do all these ridiculous things that the governor wanted the sheriffs to do. And now this is them saying, no, you don't have that power. But I mean, do we need to have a whole discussion on the power of sheriffs? I mean, for this to even be introduced, that's a lot. And so this is where it's going to turn California into a police state. And this is the whole mile, like you said.
Well, and I like what you just said. For it to even be introduced also shows you how important it is for law enforcement not to enforce unjust laws, regulations, mandates, executive orders, policies, and everyone. That's why we painted in 2019 the banner when we formed Freedom Angels. This is a new civil rights movement, because it's really as simple. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's discrimination, it's discrimination. If it's segregation, it's segregation. If it's hate language, it's hate. If it is against human and civil rights, then it is wrong. And just like anyone from MLK to Gandhi or Thomas Jefferson said, then it's our duty to not obey. I mean, that's really what you do when it's tyranny. You have no choice, even if it's a law. And so that's why it's so important that law enforcement hasn't jumped in as much as possible. And you can see the strategic importance of that here just by them introducing this legislation to make it a law, to require them. And everyone gets coerced. Everyone gets like, shoot, I'm just doing my job. I don't want to do it. They'll always find someone.
Your family, it's their family, your family. And right now everybody wants to make sure their family's okay. And so this is the position they're in. The next bill is AB 1993. This bill would require all employees, public and private sector, to be up to date with the COVID-19 vaccine. You can't work in the state of California. I mean, and again, up to date, there's never up to date because the goalpost keeps moving. They keep adding more things. So if you're going to say, okay, I'm going to take these two, I'll take the booster, but I'm done. Like, I'm not going to do it anymore. You are then considered out of compliance. And so in this bill, it says that there is, religious exemptions, but in this bill, it also states that an employer could be fined if they're out of compliance. So again, this is their position. Are you as an employer going to risk it all for your religious exemption, or are they just going to hire somebody else, or is their business going to go out altogether because they're not going to comply? And so this is that piece of will you be okay not being able to feed your family? Remember, there's not going to be any government assistance, right? There's going to be attachments to that you're going to have to comply. There's not going to be unemployment. We already saw that with the layoffs or with the firings of medical professionals. You're not getting unemployment because you were out of compliance. So you're not going to have anything. And, we're seeing in other countries, bank accounts are affected. So you're not going to be able to have a bank account. You're not going to be able to hold a job. You're not going to be able to get unemployment, and you're not going to be able to feed your family. So where's your line on this? And again, these are not far out. I've seen so many people said this would never pass. We said that in 2015. We said that in 2019. We're going to say that again in 2022, because it absolutely can and will pass if we don't start holding the line. And that means full on scale, nonviolent mass noncompliance.
Yeah, it's the only way. We're huge advocates against not only mandates, but against exemptions. Again, it's asking for permission. Permission is not an inborn right. It's something that they will manipulate and control you with and take away. Don't feel comfortable in any position around exemptions. It is literally has to be no. We accept none of those terms. You don't get to mandate any of this. This is human choice, whether someone has participated and is choosing to do every shot in the world that they ever come up with or not. We have to hold that line that this is human choice. This is not around no business, no school, no transportation system or any public system has any ability, and that includes private businesses that are part of public, have any right to make that decision. that's against human and civil rights. That's really the position it has to be. Because like Denise said, you might decide you don't want one shot someday, or you might think your exemption is safe. And we can tell you that is not how this game goes. That is not the end goal. Whatever, if you believe anything different, then you have, then they tricked you.
Next, Tara, I didn't get it. I read this bill. It's a very vague bill, very vague. And it's AB 1797, and it would require changes to the California Immunization Record Database. Now, I don't know if you've had a chance to read up on it, or if anybody else can give us but I did not see anything in there that would tell us what exactly they're talking about changing. But just know there is a registry. So for every person vaccinated and unvaccinated, there's a database for them. Those exemptions are absolutely on a database. You haven't escaped a database because you decided not to get yourself vaccinated, but there is a registry. You'll be able to actually go online and see your registry. They say that I'm going to let you talk about that because it's the CARES, and I know you know a lot about the CARES.
Well, really what I would just say, because I haven't read this particular bill yet, but all these things are going to be about building, these private public contracts to lay in the infrastructure, the apps and the systems that allow them to locally, state, federal, and globally coordinate all this information in the most efficient manner so that they can lock you out of the grocery store. They can lock you out of your employer can look at it and fire you or not let you into the office. You cannot be able to get into that country. And this is how they do it. So I don't know what the bill is, but I can tell you when I haven't read it all, but I'm sure it will be about changing regulation and code and updating statute and different adding in things that will allow them to build that system more effectively and efficiently. I mean, that's what it's all end goal about. And there's a new vaccine coalition of state legislators who are, from Senator Pan to Senator Weiner to Akilah Weber to Evan Lowe and Buffy Wicks and Aguilar Curry and a handful of people who, all Democrats, who are working to advance these legislation. And what you can really do is just look at that group of people and just know that those are the vaccine extremists. Those are the extremists who are going to champion any one of all this legislation that is designed to own your body, control your life, and really has to be fought with the fundamental human and civil rights battle of you don't get to do that. And one of the things is don't ever be shy about playing the victim here. People are being discriminated against. I mean, we have a culture, it's like, I'm not a victim. I'm all about, overcoming and not playing a victim. But the truth is if you're discriminated against, if you're segregated against, if you're subject to harassment and hate rhetoric, if you don't own your body, if you're being surveilled and controlled, then you are a victim. And there can be no crime unless there is a victim. Now, our triumph over that is to recognize it and to stand and say, no, I won't accept it. I won't, you don't get to do this. And one of the big things, this is a propaganda society of gaslighting is, guess what though? The victim, they get to decide this, and the oppressors, they don't get to say otherwise. Senator Pan, Senator Weiner, those guys, they don't get to say otherwise if your child is being demonized or you are being kicked out of your job. You are a victim of a human and civil rights violation, and they are the oppressors. They are the extremists. It is never okay to do this to another human based on any qualifying factor at all, ever.
Awesome. It's so frustrating. I'm like, I can't believe we still have 2 more bills to go through. Like, this is how extensive these bills are in California. It's mind-boggling right now. The next one is AB 2098. This bill would reclassify the sharing of COVID-19 misinformation by doctors and surgeons as unprofessional conduct, and that would result in disciplinary actions. So what this means is they're getting rid of all the good doctors who are going and trying to help patients navigate their health, right? Because doctors are simply medical advice. They are not here to make medical decisions for us, but they will have their license taken. They will be drowned in fines and paperwork, legal fees to protect their license that they're most likely going to lose anyways, because they're speaking against, not even against, they're speaking on the facts of what medicine is and saying, you know what, looking at your medical records, I don't think this is a good idea for you to take this particular medicine. I don't think it's healthy for you to do this, or this may be an injury. Let's treat it. All that's out the window with this. Doctors are going to be silenced. And what is medical care really going to be built on after that? You can't be seen unless you're jabbed. You can't, get any kind of medical help from any even independent doctors. This is going to boom the medical tourism in Mexico, because we don't have the opportunity through healthcare. They're not talking about health and true well-being for your bodies. They want to shut you up, and this is how they're going to do it with the doctors.
Oh, right. I mean, all hail the medical industrial cartel here. I mean, this is literally, there is no doctor, there is no standard of care around foundational health in that. There is no doctor-patient relationship in that. This is straight up, again, the discernment. What's evil? What is modern day slavery? What is totalitarianism? What is a complete control state? That's these things don't happen in a free and just and enlightened society. These are the positions and policies and rules and laws of a totalitarian technocratic regime. And that does not have humanity's best interest at heart ever. That is about control and commoditization of humanity.
Yep. And the last bill, which is always fun, SB 920, this bill authorizes a board investigator at the discretion of the board to inspect business locations of a physician, including patient records. So they want access to our medical records if they feel that doctor is giving misinformation, writing an exemption, and not just to jabs, but also, if they don't like what the doctors are doing, then they're at their medical board discretion be able to come in and get our private information. We no longer, and thanks to SB 276, really for this, is we no longer have the privacy between patient and doctor. We no longer have the ability to make our own medical decisions with the help and guidance of a physician. Now it's all in the hands of the medical board and public health, all the people who are not elected positions, who are appointed positions, who shouldn't even have anything to do with our healthcare, and they're not our doctors. We don't have relationships with them, but yet these people are going to be able to have a say over what we do with our bodies medically if we are in allopathic care.
Yeah, exactly. And this is straight out of what we were dealing with in 2019 with SB 276. What happened is doctors wrote legal medical exemptions for children with childhood vaccines based on genetics and family history. That was the standard of care on that was removed in 2019 in that battle. But this is what they wanted to do is they wanted to get they actually retroactively criminalized the doctors for taking lawful action. The doctors were acting lawfully and legally, and they came back retroactively, criminalized them, and removed their medical exemptions. I still can't even believe that can happen. And what was happening is they couldn't get at the doctor-patient records. They couldn't get at the children's records. And this is aimed directly at allowing them to come in like the Gestapo. This is full-on Gestapo. It's nothing short of that, to come in being like, hey, I don't like that you said that child can't, or that adult has a religious exemption and you sign, you're their doctor, or how about this? You gave someone ivermectin. And that is against, the state standard of care, the federal standard of care. They will come right in like a Gestapo. It seems like little bills, but these are all tied together.
These are huge It's not little. These are huge steps to take the whole thing. You know, the inch was 277 and it was 276. This is it because these bills passed. This laid the framework and the foundation to allow these bills to come in. And so, you know, we already are we're at 37 minutes. We were supposed to be here for 30 minutes to talk. I know, but that's how many bills we had to talk about. It was literally a couple minutes per bill and we're already at 37 minutes. So we're, you know, Tara and I are really working hard to keep this as, you know, our Freedom Angels live at 5, because there's so much information that we have to go through. And we were deplatformed after the FDA announced EUA for 5 years and up. So we're really depending on people to share our information, share the links. You know, we're on Telegram. I am under The-Informed-Mama 209. And, you know, I post when we're going to be live, where we're going to be. So please share it. You can also get tools and resources at freedom-angels.org. There's tools and resources to work on a local and state level, as well as school levels, and building out the new society that we all know is very much needed. So, Tara?
Yeah, we'll do another one where we get into what you can do, because this is depressing. This was
I know,
just,
no, we'll have it, there's do, right? Like, I don't want to leave this live and make people feel like, damn, we're screwed. There are things you can do. And we have been successful in doing these things. So we will do another live at 5. And we will talk about solutions to your lives when it comes to this, building out your plan B, your plan C, but also course correcting, getting engaged, what you can do at a local level with your community. I don't want you guys leaving here thinking that we're screwed. We actually have a lot that you can do. So we'll do another live at 5. Please follow our Telegram channels. And then Tara is Pioneer Mama, and we will, you know, we're going to continue to do this because we have to start gaining traction. I mean, we have just a little bit of time left.
yeah. And one of the things everyone can do right now is start thinking about your own life. Who do you know in your community? What, you know, where do you work? Who are you connected to with other businesses? Who do you know that's part of labor unions, small business groups? Who do you know that is in a profession, you know, from nurses to firefighters to whoever it might be? Start talking to them, tell them about these bills, tell them to start talking to, if they are concerned, to speak to the you know, their unions, to speak to their small business associations, to speak to the local elected officials in their cities and counties, and to people to legislators in the district offices. Just start talking, tell everyone about these bills, have it like it needs to be spreading by word of mouth, so that people can start to have the conversations and demand to the state legislators that they don't accept these terms. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I hope everyone has a blessed night. I will announce our, you know, Tara's and our schedule. We're not podcasters. Like we are, we rerun like 3 different organizations each. And so we do our best to get on and to give you guys information. But now that we see that legislation is rolling out, we are going to commit to live, so that way we can interact with you and you can kind of start getting an idea of what you can do in your community. So again, please follow our Telegram channel. Tara, are our Telegram channels on our website?
Yes, I think they might be, they are on our website. I think at About Us, at the bottom, there is a link to our Telegram channels, or the address for them.
Awesome. So on freedom-angels.org, on the About Us, please go scroll down, click our Telegram links, and then I will post flyers. And once we have our schedule figured out to be consistent, we'll announce it, and then we can start doing our lives at 5. To everyone for joining us. Have a blessed night, and